Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, over to you.
Radhe Radhe, Pallavi-ji. Thank you, Madan-ji, for a wonderful session. Welcome. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening, everybody. Hope you are in a pleasant mood today to discuss anger. We'll get really deep into that topic today. We'll spend more time in some practical implementation, taking up some scenarios as opposed to recitation today. So I will start. We will pick up the shloka and then we will directly get into the discussion, the topic discussion today, because I'm sure a lot of good things are going to come out of it. In fact, I'm thinking of having a running tracker where each problem is unique. So you may think the framework that we are presenting does not fit the specific kind of problem that you're facing. But as we grow along, the hope is that a pattern would start emerging in the different, even though on the surface they may look like different flavors, but at the bottom, we will start seeing some kind of a pattern emerging, and typically the symptom of the same problem that we are seeing. Over time, we can build on that, regardless of, this is a very important topic to tackle because amongst all the afflictions of Maya that our mind is tormented with, anger is the commander-in-chief, Senapati, and it exerts a lot of control over us, and control that we can go on to regret for the rest of our life. That is how bad anger is. What we can do is we can build on this stuff as we go along, maybe pick up some situation from time to time, because the real deal is to see the progress or be able to imbibe it and get better at managing things around us. Anger, if we can start conquering it systematically, dismantling it, no better gift we can give ourselves, materially as well as spiritually. All right, so let's get started with our opening prayers, and then we'll get into the topic of our discussion, really deep into the topic of our discussion today. Let me share my screen. I hope audio video is all right today.
Yes.
Okay, great. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening again, everyone. So let's get started. We will directly get into the business end of our presentation today. So let's pick up the shloka. It's 2. All right. Before I get into the shloka, let's tee it up a little bit. So what is one thing that you can't get rid of by losing it? Apparently, it is temper. So you try to lose it, but you don't, losing temper is not good, as we all know, right? So let's get started. Some pictures I picked up, found it pretty interesting related to anger. So people blame other people's stupidity for their anger. That can happen, as we see. Some people find it cute, especially when it comes from young kids. But as they grow up, the same tantrum irritates us, frustrates us, and can even make us angry. Not when they are young. We find it very cute. And obviously, we know that our mouth starts working faster than our mind when anger happens. And in fact, if we blame stupidity around for the reason of our anger, Einstein had said that, what is the difference between genius and stupidity? And the answer is, genius has its limits. All right, so let's get started. We picked up shloka chapter 2, verse 63. It's a very, very, very important shloka. So I'm going to recite it and then we will get started. Maybe we'll pick up 2 or 3 participants just to continue with the ritual that we have, and then we'll get really deep into the discussion. We'll not spend a lot of time on the recitation because I think discussion is going to be much more fruitful today. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhranshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. All right.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, Ramya ji.
Pallavi ji, top 3, all yours today.
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead, Ramya ji.
Sammoha, sammohat smriti vipramaha, smriti bhranshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramya ji. I think Pallavi ji is doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, so don't feel bad if your name doesn't get picked up, because you're going to enjoy the discussion more for sure. All right, who's the second one?
So, Nitin ji, I would, can I please take the second one as myself, because this is my favorite, one of the most favorite verses.
Yes. There are certain privileges you get being a co-host, so please go ahead and exercise it.
No, I don't want to use my privileges.
It's okay. I think discussion is going to be much more, so you can go that. We'll still pick 3 only. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhranshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati.
Wonderful. Very nice, Pallavi ji. All right, let's take another one.
Yeah, Rupa ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
All right, we'll take one more. 2 more we'll take. Okay, we'll make a concession.
Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat priti vibrahamaha, smriti branshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati.
Wonderful, Rupaji. All right, we will take one more and then we'll get started.
Yeah, Pragi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Pragi ji.
Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibramaha, smriti bhranshad buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati.
Wonderful, very nice, Pragi ji. So the short translation for the shloka goes like: anger leads to clouding of judgment, which results in bewilderment of the memory. When the memory is bewildered, the intellect gets destroyed. And when the intellect is destroyed, one is ruined. That is what Lord Krishna is telling us. So many self-help books are there, but the entire mechanics of how the anger unfolds is laid out in front of us. It just happens in nanoseconds, but how it goes, very beautifully it has been explained. Clouding of judgment, bewilderment of memory, destruction of intellect, and finally leading to ruin. Just happens like that, right? People commit even murders when they get angry. Navjot Singh Sidhu, he apparently he went on bail to play cricket. He's probably the only cricketer I've heard of who went on an overseas tour on bail. Apparently he had some kind of an altercation and the other person lost his life. So anyways, so let's get started on this topic. We will spend more time on the practical application, picking up scenarios, but theory has to precede that, of course. Now, anger is one of the many anarthas. Anarth, which is we have to, the material world, basically, we need to get rid of if we have to attain God. Yesterday, we spoke about the topic of cleansing our mind. And there is no surest, smartest, dumbest, I would say, or fastest way to dirty it than calling upon anger or being called upon by anger, I would say. We don't call like anger because anger is not our servant. We are actually the servant of anger. Anger calls us and we are at the disposal of anger. That is how it goes. Now, from a spiritual standpoint, if we look at all the afflictions that we have, right, if these are the bumps, lust, greed, pride, jealousy, so on and so forth, the anger is the biggest bump that we have. And it is called as a commander-in-chief or the Senapati of all the material afflictions that our mind is tormented with. And it is like an express delivery of truckload of garbage in your drawing room. If you're cleaning up something and if somebody says, hey, you've got an express delivery, and empties the whole truck into your drawing room, that's essentially what anger is. Next time you can remember that analogy. So moving on, here's our intellect. Intellect is our discrimination faculty that we have. This is what differentiates us from animals, humans from animals, by the way. Now what Lord Krishna is saying, and then the mind is subservient to our intellect. Intellect is a higher authority than our mind, as we have discussed in multiple sessions. Now what Lord Krishna is saying is, when anger comes, this faculty of ours gets clouded. And when it gets clouded, it's just like driving with a misty windshield. If you have driven in fog, you would know you cannot see clearly what's happening, right? Just imagine it's all fogged. You're not able to see clearly. And a lot of hit and runs can happen when you do that, especially when you're going at a fast speed without having the ability to see clearly. So, and then when the intellect is clouded, anger clouds it. It leads to bewilderment of memory. Your memory goes for a toss. You forget who this person is, whether he's the older person or the person that you respected so much, loved so much, cared for so much. You'll just forget it at that moment. And when you forget, your memory is forgotten, then you lose that power of what is right and what is wrong, because anyway your intellect is clouded, and you simply flow with the surge of emotions to get that dopamine kick that we have been talking about, right? Sometimes it feels good that, you know, I did it and I made that person feel what I was supposed to do. So this is how the anger process unfolds. So if you look at it from a step-by-step, anger, it leads to bewilderment of memory, which further leads to destruction of the intellect. And when the intellect is destroyed, there's absolutely no difference between a human and an animal. So those primal animalistic instincts, when they take over, and when your amygdala, which is the what do you call that, the portion of our brain which enables us for fight or flight response, it says fight. Okay, and then that fight can happen through your tongue or verbal blows or physical blows, or it could lead to anything basically, and one is ruined basically. That is how this whole process pans out. Now moving on, yesterday we had spoken about a couple of days back, this process, repetitive thoughts, they lead to attachment, and then the attachment can have two parts to it, right? Where it will get fulfilled or it will not. So if you get your object of attachment, then it leads to greed, and if you don't get it, it will lead to anger. Now the key thing here is to understand is, anger actually is a symptom. The actual root cause is attachment. Okay, if we simply dissect our anger, it is a symptom. What is a symptom? For example, if you are suffering from an infection, right? Some kind of an infection is going on in your body, it will manifest as fever. So you have temperature. So the symptom is fever, but the root cause is some infection, bacterial infection that might be going on inside your body. Now, if you simply take crocin or Advil, it will treat the symptom, which is good. But has it truly addressed the root cause? No, it is not. For that, you'll have to take a, you know, what do you call that, antibiotic course, or, you know, something to that effect, because now we are hitting the root cause for it. The symptom. So anger is simply a symptom of something much more deeper, and that deeper thing is our attachment to something. Now that attachment is getting obstructed, and that is where that anger is coming. That is what our scriptures tell us very clearly. Bhagavad Gita also explains this process as well. So now you can treat the symptom as best as you can. There are, you know, tools and techniques around that as well. Like people say, when anger comes, count till 20, take deep breaths. Yesterday, I think Sandhya was telling me that somebody would wash utensils when anger would come, or you can puff your cheeks up with water. Okay, try that out. That also helps, by the way. So all these techniques are good, but then we are treating the symptom. The most smarter thing is to go to the root and address it systematically and once and for all, hopefully, one day. So, yeah, Riyaji, you had a question. I see your hand raised, or is it something you can park it for now? Okay. Yeah, Riyaji, you had some question? Or maybe not. Okay, let's continue. We can take that later. All right. So then let's talk about now what do we do when anger comes? Shall we suppress it? Let's think about these concepts a little deeply, okay? And this is where we're going to have some discussion as well. Or we express it. Now, when we say we suppress it, we do actually. A lot of us do that. Have you ever realized that anger always flows top down? Have you ever displayed your anger or vented out your anger at your boss or somebody of higher authority than you? No. That means we do have that ability to suppress it when our smart mind and intellect knows I cannot afford it. So if you're sitting in a meeting and there are CEOs and executives or somebody where the stakes are high, you don't feel good about something, somebody insults you, there are good odds we will suppress it. And anger always flows top down from higher to lower authority. Typically, people, when they consider somebody are subordinate to them in some way or another, or they can take them for granted, that's how anger flows. It does never flows from down to upward direction. It flows from north to south. So boss will yell at the guy at office. The guy will come and yell at wife. The wife will yell at kid. Kid will yell at the pet. That is how the cycle will go. But just keep it in mind that we do suppress it. We do have that ability. But is it sustainable? We'll get into that. So we suppress it. I mean, we are not taking a stance here, which one is best or which one is the one to go. Just looking at options. They're very situational. And all these options are valid options depending upon the situation that we are in. Okay. So first one is suppress. You can think about that. Second one is express. Yeah, let's just take it head on, which we anyway do. When we express or vent out our anger, this is what we do. Now, what happens in this? Let's look at some of the ramifications or the results or the outcomes of expressing our anger. Now, does it cool the other person down? No, it's like fighting fire with fire. Right? So it fuels the other's anger and then it becomes mutually reinforcing because the other's anger has increased. Now your anger is also increased. Now because your anger has increased, others is also. So it's like who will blink first kind of a battle ensues after that. Right? So competition begins. Who can get more angry and who can overpower the other with the argument, anger, or whatnot, all the history and everything. So the competition starts when we start expressing it. The other thing that happens is, yes, the outcomes. You can exchange verbal blows, you can exchange physical blows, it can happen. It can even lead to things such as divorce, irreparable damage it can cause. These are some of the outcomes of when we continue to express our anger. Now, the other question is, can one be assertive and gentle at the same time? Now, you have to make a point. Obviously, somebody will say, I have a right to express my anger because I don't want to become a doormat. Very valid point. Yes, we have to express at times, especially if we are in the position of authority, being a parent, being a teacher, or somebody who's a counselor. If you have to do some course correction for your client or with your kids, you have to take a stance. But then the point is, you really have to get upset over that, or you can put on an act. It reminds me of that story anyways, of a hissing snake. Snake is not intending to bite, but it is hissing to drive home a point. Now, the key point here is you can be assertive and gentle at the same time. People think if they have to drive home a point, they have to get loud and they have to get angry. There's a difference between what you do on the outside and what you are feeling from inside. There is actually a difference between that. I'll tell you from my personal example with our little one, when I discipline him and when I'm agitated from within, that doesn't have the desired effect. But when I discipline him with a calm mind, thinking very clearly and making that point, being very assertive, it has a different effect. You can try it at your home with anybody. When you have an altercation with somebody, And when you are having that exchanges with an agitated, hot head, not feeling comfortable from within, it's a vulnerable situation, emotionally vulnerable situation. It will not have the desired effect. But when you are thinking clearly, you're trying to drive home a point, right? Which is what we want to do in a lot of situations. You are assertive, but at the same time, it's not like you are feeling a lot of turbulence from within. It will have altogether a different impact, even on the other person. Because now you are operating from a position of strength, not from a position of weakness. So sometimes you may have to show something, put on an act. Actors do that all the times in the movies. Are they truly angry? Right? It's just like somebody says, if I have to play a role of a Devadas, I have to drink a lot. Not necessarily. So you can put on an act and people start shedding tears looking at that acting. So that acting can be done on the outside. The key is not to feel that twitch from within. And that is what we need to do. Now, what we are talking about, we are going to get into some of the techniques where we are not just looking at the symptom, just taking some deep breaths or counting till 20. All these are good techniques, but we are still not hitting the root cause of anger. Now, this is suppress and express. We briefly spoke about. Is there a third option? And the good news is, yes, there is a third option as well, which is called, let's look at it. What is that called? Now, what is the trigger point for anger? The trigger for anger is typically you get scolded, you are hurt, somebody has insulted you, or somebody has not failed to meet your expectations, right? These are typically the triggers, not just limited to these alone. It's not all inclusive, but these are some of the, and then it results in anger. The third option that we're talking about is express, suppress, and then you can process. You can process anger as well. So let's look at this concept of processing the anger. Now we are bringing in mindfulness into what we are doing. See, anger is almost like a sneeze. Do we have control over it? No. So if we continue to treat it like a sneeze, we will be at a big disadvantage. So in order to process, now you have to wear your thinking hat on, okay, when this happens. But you can make some thumb rules around the de facto or the default behavior whenever that comes. So the mindfulness is obviously needed. That, all right, I have started feeling something now. Okay, yeah, the yellow or the amber zone has come in from the green. And that movement has to be recognized. Okay, that can only happen when we are increasing our mindfulness. And how do you increase your mindfulness? By building some spiritual understanding, strength, resilience, and all those things. They're all interrelated. That is how you become more mindful, basically, more aware of your own emotions. And when that happens, let's see how can we process anger. Step one, stop. Stay silent or go away. Okay, this is the step one, very important step. Having said that, sometimes it may not be possible, right? So sneeze is almost come out before you have realized it. Then let's say something comes out of your mouth. If something comes out of your mouth, then stop. Don't continue. And Maharajji gives a very beautiful example around it. When women are cooking, right, especially in our traditional way, in chulha and all, or maybe in electric stoves as well, the cloth, it catches a fire. It happens. It can happen a lot of times. What do? Immediately put it off. That's the immediate reaction. It's like when you are, let's say you are eating something and a conker or a stone, small pebble comes in your mouth. What do? You keep on chewing it? No. Immediately reject it. Similarly, when the cloth catches a fire, you put it down immediately. If you let it flourish, it will burn her down. She knows that. There was a book, I remember when I used to be small, which was, I won't say a lot of years back, a few years back, I would say. So Leo Tolstoy's story was there in our book, which had a spark neglected burns the house. Okay? It actually talks about a story when a spark was neglected, it actually burned down an entire house. That is how powerful it can be. And anger starts like a spark. Now the choice is with us. Do we want to fuel it or we want to put it down? And the first step is stop, stay silent, or go away. If you cannot do that, you have already committed. There is no rollback in what you have said, then stop whenever that mindfulness comes. We eventually have to get better at that. We have to put it down. More importantly, after step 2, what it says is, it's from Maharajji's lecture, beautiful practical nuggets. Reading self, it's an inside out fixed job that we have to commit to after that. What is that? Use discrimination, accepting own faults. If somebody comes and says you are stupid, actually, factually, we are all stupid. Think of it. Tulsidas said, I'm Murak, Khal, Kami, Kutil, everything. Saints say that. But we have such a big ego that we are not able to take even a small word from somebody. Okay, so that is the first factual thing. Is it something, if somebody says something bad to us, to some extent it is true actually. Our argument may be, all right, you are saying that, but even look at yourself. Okay, that is fine. But then just simply take it objectively. If somebody has said something, okay, maybe it's an opportunity. There is a truth to that, right? May not be 100%, but 80%, 60%, something is there. More importantly, the other aspect of it is, inside out job is to bring the knowledge that this person is upset with me or angry with me because that person's selfish interest has been obstructed. So something that that person wanted, because it's end of the day, we are all selfish. So their interest was impeded, because of which this person is behaving this way. And this will not remain forever. It will go away after a while. We know that from our experience, right? When our anger cools down, even the person becomes all right, bad thing happened, we become apologetic as well, and that situation can have. And after a while, that situation may not remain. And then we have to remind, even I am selfish for that matter. Right? When my self-interest gets obstructed, I get angry. When somebody else does, they get angry. It might be to varying proportion, but then in that sense, we have to really understand and do an introspection around that. I'll tell some more tools around it. So the second part of it, when we read that situation, there are a lot of questions actually we can ask ourselves around that time. There's a cure versus endure principle as well. Is it something that you can truly cure? If answer is yes, see, in every situation, we have three options: change it, quit it, or learn to live with it. Right? So when we complain about our companies, hey, it's boss is not right, the policies are not right. If you can't cure it, we simply endure it. And if we can cure it, we make the change, we reach out to HR and try to do the best that we can. Or if we think it's beyond my control, we quit, we change jobs. So in the relationship where you're having a problem, can you cure it? If not, you'll have to endure it. This is a very simple thing. Cure it or endure it. There's no third option. Enduring means putting up with it. And then you have to take control on how to endure it, basically. If you can cure it, well and good. The second aspect of it is, are you treating the symptom or the root cause, right? We are going to talk a little bit more about that. Like symptom is, you can do some tools and techniques that work for you, which is fine. But over time, we have to systematically tackle it, because the same thing will happen after a few days. You were able to cool it down, or, take that hard gulp, as they say. But what happens after a few days? The cycle repeats. So ideally, what should happen is, if you have truly started working on treating the root cause, next time the intensity or the threshold that brought out that anger should have increased, not for the same thing, right? That means you have built some resilience. Like I said, the first time maybe somebody touched you, you became angry. Second time, they may have to poke you to make you angry. Third time, maybe even punch you to make you angry. That has to increase the threshold which makes you angry. That means you are working on the root cause. If you are not worked on the root cause, you have treated the symptom, again, it will happen. And again, it's a test of your willpower on how do you become mindful and then do all those steps, deep breathing and all that stuff. So it's important not only to focus on the how to treat the symptom, but also the root cause if you want to really get over this particular emotion. The third one is the price tag and the trade-offs, right? It again goes back to cure and endure in a way, because every relationship has a price tag to it, right? When it starts getting out of our budget, we start complaining, right? It's like a withdrawal deposit kind of a balance that we maintain. So if you are willing to pay that price tag, the relation is managed, right? It's well within your budget. But if it starts getting beyond what you can actually give in for that relationship, it could be at the worth of your self-esteem. It could be at the worth of, feeling good about yourself. It could be at the cost of compromising on certain things. As long as it's within your price tag that you value, that you hold very dear to yourself as part of your self-esteem or otherwise, that relation will be maintained. But if it goes beyond that, then there are trade-offs. You have to think. Again, it goes back to whether you can cure it or you have to endure it. If relationship is so important that you are stuck in that, there's absolutely no way out of it. For whatever reasons, obviously there is a trade-off. You have to endure it. That's where treating the root cause comes in more handy, because now you're taking control in your hand to counter that situation, as opposed to giving the keys to somebody else. Only if they turn the key in the right manner will you be happy. Otherwise, you'll become angry. That's not sustainable. So this is the third aspect of it. Now, first, stop, stay silent, go away. Second step is reading self. Now, reading self, there are some introspective questions that you can ask. It's a very important exercise, because if you vent it out, you have just enjoyed the dopamine kick. Okay, nothing. You have just maintained yourself where you are. If you think deeply about this concept, it actually gives you an opportunity for inner growth opportunity, big time opportunity is presented. So let's look at some of the questions you can ask. You can, maybe take that. Now, first question is, are we the center of the universe where the earth rotates around us? Sometimes we get mad, right? Our wishes are not fulfilled. We have to ask, are we really the center of this universe where the universe is created for the purpose of fulfillment of all of our desires? If we simply acknowledge some of our desires will be fulfilled, some may not be, it is the sign of spiritual maturity. That will help us put a lot of things in perspective as well. Typically, we get upset when we desire something, we don't get it de facto behavior. Okay, I'm irritated, I'm upset, or I'm not feeling good, I'm not in a good mood. Or that anger will come out, manifest in somebody else in some form. So first of all, we have to see things in perspective. Be proactive, preempt the fact that not all of my desires will be fulfilled. That is, universe is not created to fulfill or serve me basically, because earth does not rotate around me. Right? So that's the first part of bringing in the perspective or humility around the situation. Now, the intense desires that we make, which get obstructed, which result in anger, it's basically, if you look at the argument, the simple argument is, I should have it and therefore I must have it, else I'm entitled to angry. Because I desire something, I should have it and there I must have it. If I don't, I'll get angry or I get upset. The important thing here is to understand is the beautiful thing from Swamiji's lecture. He said that, I love this one. When what we do in special situations is determined by what we do in ordinary situations. This is a principle. Only the practice we can bring proper attitude to. With practice, it should be. There's a typo. So when the going is smooth, the kind of practice you do, that is what you can bring to the fore when the going gets tough. All of a sudden, you cannot pull it out of your hand. So when the going is smooth, we have to invest wisely to build that resilience, perspective, knowledge, mindfulness that will help us during the time when we really need it. We don't dig a well when the house is on fire. We dig a well proactively, anticipating that, anytime I can see a spark. So it has to be very systematically tackled. Otherwise, anger is anger. It will just flare up before you realize it. And then all you can do is feel apologetic about it. And by the time you would already depleted what you have gained from a spiritual standpoint. I'm not getting into the flip side or the negative side of anger today. We're just going to have a discussion on this one. But then our scriptures in Bhagavad Gita tells us that the 3 gates to hell, they will lay a red carpet for you if you keep on getting angry. And anger can become a mindset. First, you'll start getting angry at home, with your kids, with your wife, then at boss, then on the road, then with the newspaper, then with the country, politician, everything. It just becomes a mindset. You'll start finding problems for every solution. Right? It just becomes a mindset. But the key thing is, that is a special situation. So that when the going is smooth, that is when we need to invest our time. And that is the time when we can bring in these things. When we said, right, step 1 and step 2 here, it is not so easy to do that unless we can bring in a little bit of gap between that stimuli and response part of it. And then reading yourself is where you are actually investing in inner growth now. Inner growth is the most important thing in life, not the external growth, because inner growth is what we carry from lifetime to lifetime. And that is what we get credit for from a spiritual bank balance standpoint. Another one is, am I getting angry because I think I'm better than the other person? So other aspect of anger is whenever we find faults or get upset with somebody because we think they have done something bad, right? You are indirectly telling that I would have done a better job or I'm better than that, right? It's our pride talking. That's again a manifestation of our pride. So it's like just like 2 people sitting who are both in a jail, and one prisoner is thinking the other prisoner is worse than me, right? although we are in the same jail. So if we look at people around us, because there is a reason why we are cohabiting the same Mrityulok together in form of relationships or friend, there is only a difference of 19-20 or 19-20 ka farak in people. But when we get upset, it's like, all right, he's the worst person in the world. And our pride, actually, we are giving a silent massage to our pride as well there. Sometimes we simply pick it up for the sake of our ego. What do I stand to gain or lose is a question that we need to ask. Are we doing it just for the sake of winning an argument with somebody at the cost of a lot of other things? In fact, it is said, there's a saying, beautiful saying, that a bad day for ego is a good day for soul. But the problem is we are not able to take that hard pill. Maharaj Ji says that 90%, 95% of the problems in this world are just because of words. Words, not even actions. Somebody said this, what did he say that? How could he say that? It's just with words, because we are not able to digest or take that feeling that comes along with it. That feeling becomes so disturbing for us that we have to talk to 10 people and then find an opportunity like Hamel trying to find a nail and vent it out. And that's when you say, now it's done. But it's a lost opportunity to invest in your personal growth or inner growth. And am I being wronged, or is it God's way of testing me, or my own mail getting delivered to me? Okay, that's a very spiritual question you can ask. I know it's very difficult to ask that, especially when you are getting taunted by somebody. But it may be God's way of telling you there is a lesson for you. This lesson is repeating for you. You better pass this test. This person is just a symptom. This person will become the best person the day you learn this lesson. Quite possible. And it could possibly be dictated through our karmas as well, where the postman is simply delivering the letter that belongs to us. We cannot fight with the postman. Why did you deliver the bad news, right? So all these perspectives can come in handy when you get to step 2, after you have hopefully taken step 1 or step 1.1, if you've already vented out something. Now let's look at it with some scenarios, and that's where I want to have a bit of a discussion. Let's put it to practice, take up some scenarios and see how this framework can be applied, even if it is applicable or not, right? It's important, if you have some kind of a framework, it should have a practical applicability. So let's pick up some scenarios that I got. If somebody taunts you, insults you, and is disrespectful to you, very disrespectful to you, somebody who keeps digging something that has happened in the past, long time, they will keep on digging that, right? Oh, you did that so and so long back, and you keep on harping on that. Someone who cannot differentiate between comfort thinking, stereotypes, conditional thinking we have, right? Person should behave like this, a bahu should be like this, dal should be like this, country should be like this, politician should be like this. Those things are there, and we lose reason in those kind of scenarios. And then is it okay to show anger under certain circumstances, parent, teacher, and all that stuff? Maybe there are some more scenarios, please feel free to add. And that's where I want to have a bit of a discussion and really make it a very objective discussion around how we can apply some of the framework, or otherwise, if you have something outside of it, to put and see how we can tackle it. All right, with that, let's open it up. Have a bit of a discussion.
There are a couple of questions in the chat.
Sure.
So Ambika ji has asked, extreme anger or any negative emotion leads to bewilderment or thought disorder issues as per psychology.
Mm-hmm.
If the person is not spiritually inclined or willing to take medication, how can he be helped?
No, it's a personal journey, unfortunately. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So we get cured only when we acknowledge there is a problem. And anger is called a manas roga in our scriptures. It is actually an ailment. That's what our scriptures say. But the person has to first acknowledge there is a problem, and then they should have that willingness and sincerity to work towards it. And they will get ways to actually quell it. But first they have to acknowledge it, right? If they are comfortable just venting out their anger, nobody can help them. Yes.
Surinder ji also has questions. So he has put in chat, but I'll just unmute him so that he can talk.
Sure.
Surinder ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Surinder. Radhe Radhe.
Nitin ji, I read the last sentence in one of the sentences. Last word was to bear. I missed out what was the reference to.
So cure or endure, that was the thing, right? We have to think about it. Can we do something about it? We did the serenity prayer the other day, right? Things that are within our control, we should have courage to change it. Things that are beyond our control, we should have forbearance or tolerance around it. And then more importantly, we should have wisdom to discriminate between the two. Now, if there's a relationship you are stuck in, or there is something that you are stuck in, right? Even in professional, you are stuck with a boss. Can you cure it? Can you do something about it? Change it, learn to put up with it, or quit it. The three options are there. More often than not, there might be situations that you simply have to endure it. And that's where building those skills of how to put that situation in perspective would help, unless you have a way to cure it. So either you cure it or you endure it. There is no third way in any such situation.
That means it should have been beer, B-E-A-R. I understand now.
Yeah, B-E-R. Yeah, beer, or endure. Yeah, that's true, with proper perspective, because it's a ticking time bomb. If you're simply suppressing it, but you're not able to make sense out of it, it will come out like a volcano on somebody. So that developing that perspective is important when you are bearing it, because bearing is not sustainable. Okay, finally it will burst out on somebody. Right? There was a guy who went to Buddha and he said, I want to go out and start doing bhiksha. So Buddha said, what if people don't give you anything? He said, then I will think, at least they are not abusing me. He said, what if people start abusing you? He said, then I'll think that at least they're not hitting me. Then he said, what if people start hitting you? He said, then I'll think people, at least they're not killing me. So he said, yeah, now you're ready for it. So I'm not saying we become like that, but especially when we have to endure, it's a great opportunity to invest in inner growth, because it is liberating. It is liberating because now you can actually conquer that. It's like somebody gives you a lot of dump of garbage and you don't accept it. It remains with that person only because you are untouched, untainted. It will not result in any turbulence within you. That thing could come as well.
Great, sir. Thank you very much.
No worries. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Everyone, feedback tracker has been posted. Please put your feedback, your comments, your topics of discussion. Yeah, please do that.
Yeah, and we have Holi event coming up, Holika Dahan tomorrow, and Holi event. If you are around Dallas, I look forward to meeting you there. It's going to be a fun event. So do check it out, help us spread the word, and do come if you have not already gotten your registration and tickets for that. And family camp, other thing, I've been telling about it, Jan 24th to 30th. Do plan for it, and you don't have to worry about accommodation or anything.
Yeah, pardon me, Nitinji. It is June, not Jan, right?
June, yeah, June. Jun, not Jan, yeah. June 24th too. So yes, do plan for it. Let's continue our discussion, and help if you're liking the session, do help out on spreading the word. Today there was an interesting reel that came out, so let me share with all of you. You can take a look at it, share it with your friends. Okay, don't laugh at me, just share it with your friends, save it, and like it and comment on it. Please help out, spread the word. More participants can benefit from the session. So we will be creating some small reels from time to time on our sessions and otherwise as well. Let's continue with our discussion now.
Yeah.
Holika Dahan we have today in India.
Okay, we have it tomorrow at temple.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for waiting, Sandhya ji. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. So first, I have a couple of questions, but okay, the first one is, if we start following these practices and we tend to forget getting angry at situations, but is it possible that we end up replacing anger with some other emotion, say being upset or being sad and, feeling helpless instead of becoming angry?
I don't know. I mean, you can replace that emotion actually, because each emotion has its place. So I don't think you can actually replace that, but you can dovetail it actually. You can become angry to the fact that you became angry, right? How much I've been investing in spirituality and still anger overcame me. Next time I'll get better at it. So you can divert your anger to become angry at your anger itself.
Actually, another thing around the same thing, like we are learning how to deal with our anger, but suppose someone else is expressing their anger, which is not right. So how to deal with that when we are on the other side?
So there are two things. If you really fundamentally look at it, we pick it up as a ego fight at that point. But if you actually look at it, if you approach something with love and compassion, which is obviously a very high state, you would help them heal or overcome their frailties. But we are not there yet, right? When we are boarding a flight, the air hostess tells us that wear your oxygen mask before you try to help others. So we are not there, but saints can actually do that because they can see it from that elevated state that this guy needs a healing. He's suffering. So they can actually go and even extend help to them as well to heal. We cannot do that. So for us, the best thing is to avoid that and try to reason it out inside you because they need help. I don't think we can truly help them. Maybe we can and apply some techniques, but it's not easy to transform somebody. Okay, that bringing out this change in the heart is the toughest thing in this world, and that is why spiritual charity is considered the highest, because you are helping somebody change. Now, if they have a spark towards understanding thing, yes, you can facilitate that process for them. But just by listening to Sandhya or anybody, they will not change, because if you can apply the same rule to yourself as well. If that was the case, just by listening one lecture of a saint, we would have transformed. Does it happen? No, it happens gradually. So same thing applies to people as well. If they have a certain temperament, it's their journey. We can facilitate that process. But if we think we can change them, we are being naive, very, very naive. No, nobody can change anybody. We can make it easy for them, not put fuel in fire to their anger where, we keep on repeatedly getting the worst out of them. See how we can enable to bring out the best in them and not worst in them as best as possible but beyond that, we cannot really change anybody.
And maybe last question, just quickly. So is it like losing anger will demotivate us from correcting someone's mistakes?
So only 3 people have a right to correct somebody's mistake: parent, doctor, and I believe a teacher. Right? Other than that, I think we should focus on our CV. It's like a kid has so much of homework and he's worrying about somebody else's homework. So you see that, right? But yes, sometimes you are in a position to facilitate it for somebody, which is fine. We can do our best with the best interest in heart, of course. So we can try that. But I will not take it too far because we have so much of work on doing on ourselves. And where should we have time to think about others' faults and correcting them? And it's like when we get out to do Samaj Seva and all that stuff, it's a futile. I mean, it's fine. You're doing something for others, but just think about it, how much homework we have to do on ourselves, right? It's a lifelong agenda. And God is not going to give us a gold medal for that. Yeah, he'll say, go to Swarg for a while and then come back again. True treasure is how much we have worked on ourselves. So that is the thing. We got to be selfish in a good sense in that way. And when you work on yourself, somebody may get inspired that look at her, how she's able to deal with this situation, which would make other people go mad. So that will propel them to think that something is clicking for her. And then you can inspire somebody with your behavior, but with your words, it's like hoping against hope that you can change somebody just with your words. But yes, you can have a model behavior for them. And then your odds of making an influence or changing them increases many folds because now you are able to do that. Otherwise, it's just shallow words. Right? Mahatma Gandhi, somebody told him to give up sugar. He said, Gandhiji, can you tell my son he is very fond of sugar? He said, come after a few days. And then he came after a few days, said, come after a month. He said, come after a month. And he says, give up sugar. He said, if you were to say that, why didn't you say that month back? He said, how can I say that when I've not practiced myself? So that is the key. We have to first become that, because from realization comes that conviction and depth. And then people can actually have an impact. And that is why when we hear saints' words, they have some impact on us. Otherwise, it's just theoretical stuff, mere information that we are talking about, right? Kabir was asked why people come to you and not to the other person who's so intellectual. This same person asked him that, I'm so educated, still people come to you. So he gave a beautiful, he said, tum kaho kitab ki lekhi aur main kahu aankhon ki dekhi. So when it is backed with your own experience, conviction, it will have a very different impact altogether, and even in people around you. Otherwise, it's mere theoretical stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, you can do it in good faith, with sincerity or purity of intention. Try as best as you can, but don't go overboard, because we need to focus on fixing ourselves more than correcting the world around, right? They say when I was 25, I was, I wanted to correct the world, and now I'm wise. I think if I can only correct myself, the world will automatically be fixed. So if all of us focus on correcting ourselves, the world will automatically be fixed. But the problem is we want to correct everything around us except ourselves. And that is the mistake that happens.
Very beautifully said. Thank you, Nitinji.
Yeah, let's... Anybody wants to take any of the questions that I posed? I'm hoping to crowdsource answers for that. Nobody's giving any answers. Some tools, practical tools around that.
Kumarji? Yeah, please go ahead, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
I am forced to start with this statement. Nitinji, I'm very angry at you because whenever I come to this class, even a residual anger I have, I lose it. You know, I'm like, where did the anger go? You know, so, and I'm not joking. It's really, you know, of course, most of the Bhagavad Gita classes does that to me. But I don't know whether I should just be listening to Bhagavad Gita classes, stop doing everything else, right? So really, you know, when I come here, I'm so at peace. My anger is one of my favorite subjects. Thanks to Amitabh Bachchan, I was a very angry young boy. He was an angry young man. I was an angry young boy. I thought it was cool, right? And things happened to me when I was angry. Things happened and I thought it was right. So life taught me some really tough lessons, right? So then, you know, it took some time for me to realize anger is not the solution for anything at all. Yes, there are some places like Nitinji's questions, I'm going to start answering that. Is it okay to show anger under circumstances? Yes. But it has to be rightful anger. It has to be in control. You have to be in control. You should not go out of control.
You are picking up the easiest question, Kumarji.
I'll come back. I'll come to all the other ones. I'll come to this one. I just had to say this first.
I'm just trying to make you answer.
No, sorry. That's not something you can do. Okay, that's not something this class can do. And thankfully so, right? Thanks to God, thanks to Bhagavad Gita, thanks to Swamiji, and thanks to you as well. So, and really, I'm telling by experience, I'm saying that from being an angry person, of course, you know, various things led me to losing my anger. Of course, when I started doing this JKU classes day by, I said, why should I do every day, right? Today, I was not planning to do it. I had to finish off some work. But somehow, Nitinji, I joined this class. When I saw anger, I had to join it, okay? So someone who taunts, insults, and disrespectful, I still think you should not get angry, okay? It has to be resolved, okay? Now, the thing is, like, if it happens in a job, just leave it. You know, actually, many a time, they'll come back and say, very sorry that I did this, because they were in a fit of anger, they would have said something. Being a program manager, I have to put up with a lot of junk, for a better word. And I say, you know what, I'm cool. Sometimes I get a little bit upset, but you know what, I'm not going to get angry, because if I lose control, then it's not going to show me in good light. So if someone taunts, insults, do not accept it, but do not get angry. So it has to be worked, with from a position of strength, just like what Nitinji said. Okay, someone who keeps digging something bad that happened in the past. And you know who does that, right? Usually the spouse, right? I'm just being straight and honest, right? There's no mincing words here. If you're married 5 years, if you're married 5 years, you can hear 5 years worth of stories. If you're married 10, it's 10, right? So again, I'm not saying all spouses are like that, but many a time it's the spouses who will bring back. If you are thinking that you can escape, the stories will come back. Can I see the sheet once again, Nitinji?
Yes.
Because I need to answer the other two questions.
Sure, you can. I was just trying to, so you can rush that because we have.
You're trying to make me angry. Sorry, but you cannot.
Okay, no, it's back. So yeah, you can quickly take those as well. You can have
Give
me a sec. What happened?
Because I think, overall, what I would say is, not to deal with anger, because anger does not solve issues. You cannot change people anyways, most especially your spouse, right? So if someone thinks that, hey, I can change this person, I'm talking from either side, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's both sides. If you try to change people, you cannot. So better to change ourselves.
Yep, very true.
Thanks, Radhe.
Wonderful, Kumarji. I think you gave some really good insights. Let's continue building on this discussion, because I know it's getting interesting now. So let's hear from other participants as well. Are you able to see my screen, by the way?
Not yet.
Oh, you're not able to give me a sec. What happened? Something is not right. Share screen. Okay. Okay. Now it should be okay. Are you able to see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Kumarji, great point. Very true. And I think these are some practical real life scenarios. Really like to hear from you. What do you think? So your take is, yes, we should show anger in the last one. The first one you said we should not, right? Kabir ji said that nindak niyere rakhiye, like he will apply soap and clean your mind. If you can simply tolerate, keep a critic next to you and he will keep on criticizing you and you keep on tolerating it, your mind will be automatically cleaned. He said it's a very simple trick. Saint is selling that, okay?
Yeah, I think showing controlled anger for the last situation wherein you need to, right? But being in control, because that's the toughest thing when you're angry, you just lose control.
So the same,
you don't know what you're saying, right?
You express it, do it with a clarity of thought and calm inside, as opposed to, just venting it out. It'll have a very different impact. Just try it out.
And it's very funny, just by the NATO concept which Swamiji has given, I'm able to use that at work very effectively because I'm no longer attached to the outcome. So then I can see the other person's pain. I tell them, hey, tell me what the issue is, right? Oh, because then they'll start saying all the issues and then you say, you know what, don't worry, just give it to me. Like I'll tell them, I'll give them 1 day instead of 2 days, which I have in my mind. Then when they say there's an issue, I say, okay, take 2 days and give it to me, right? So that way it kind of makes it easier, but anger does not really help because I've tried that. Simply does not work. We need to work very intelligently, right? Because all these issues it's not like we can be that saint. I think one of the saints, I forget the name, gets hit by a sugar cane, right? And he's very happy that he didn't have to break it himself. And we cannot be anywhere near that level. So I would say just, think about this, contemplate and work intelligently. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumarji. That was Tukaram, by the way. So let's hear from other participants as well.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Padmaji. Thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Before I actually address the questions on the screen, anger is not anybody's entitlement, right? Whether either by gender, birth, culture, or relationship. And this is something that we have to ingrain in our mind, because sometimes we can be culturally lost, and either in relationship wise also we can be lost because we don't have the right knowledge coming from scriptures. So when we are lost in relationship, most of the time we are lost in relationships, and we can all agree to that because we have not had that spiritual knowledge that we actually needed in that moment of time. So to understand and accept that it is nobody's entitlement, neither this spouse or that spouse, right? Neither by gender or society or culture, right? That is number one thing that I want to say. And the second thing, encompassing everything that Nitinji has presented, there is so much out there today that you have presented, but I try to seeing how I can bridge all those things in my mind, and this is what I wanted to say. It is everybody's responsibility, and it is everybody's duty, spiritual duty, to understand their own self of what is upset for you, what is sadness for you, what is anger for you. Are you actually angry, but you're actually justifying your anger by saying that I'm actually upset? So understanding your own definition of what is upset, what is anger, what is that you're worried about, define your own self and see where you stand with the term angry and the emotion which comes with the term. That is number 2 thing. And number 3 thing is, it's the lawyer, the parent, and a doctor. Those are the 3 things that Swamiji has said. So and I wanted to answer Sandhya ji, if I can attempt to. So there is a balance and discipline of the purpose at the situation when you're tackling all these 4 things. And the extreme situations, which you have not included, Nitinji, is when somebody physically harms you, right? When they're physically abusive, right? So even we can insert that situation also. there has to be balance and discipline of the purpose of that anger. If the balance and the discipline of the purpose is lost in any of the scenarios, then we are moving away from that spiritual purpose that has to give some definition to any of the scenarios, for that matter, any of the scenarios. I will be on yield so that somebody else can speak. And if we still have time, I will add on to what I wanted to say.
True. I think that is very true. The physical, violence part of it. How do we deal with that? That should it be countered through an anger, or is there a better way to handle that? What do we do that? I think one of the things that I can at least talk about from Swamiji's lecture is it's important to have healthy boundaries in everything. And even if you look at our body, if our organs do not have a healthy boundary, our stomach will dissolve, everything. So even our organs, they obey healthy boundaries. If mother says, I will do your laundry, if you do this work, that is a healthy boundary. If somebody says, I am missing you, you leave your work and come back home, that is an unhealthy boundary. So that healthy boundaries in every relationship is very important. And how do we implement those? First of all, we need to have that awareness. What is the healthy, and when it starts bordering on unhealthy boundary? Even before, you get angry or upset about it. So that is important. And then, when you get stuck in that kind of a relationship, how do you quell that kind of a situation where, the physical violence or domestic violence can come in as well? That's an interesting. So let's continue on that. I'm sure a lot of good perspectives will come out of it as well. So thank you, Padmaji, as always. And you can build on that. Let's quickly hear from other participants as well.
Thank you, Padmaji. Ajitji, Radhe
We
Radhe,
have a
please
hard
go ahead.
stop at 10:10. We have another session. We have to do a bit of a dry run today. I can see some excited faces around. So we'll try to wrap it up at 10:10. No later than that. Okay.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Nitinji, for bringing out this topic. Right now, India is passing through a great turmoil. You may be aware on this movie, Kashmir Files.
Yeah, I need to see that. I have not been...
No, not to see. Just see the news from India that there is a two-part lobbying. One Bollywood group, the powerful group, is not allowing them to screen on the India theaters, and on so many pleas that AC is not working, you can get your refund of the tickets and all this thing. On one part is like this, and another part, because of the injustice actually. And people wanted to see the movie by paying the actual price, even though it is available free of cost on the net. But people wanted to pay and see the movie. So what I mean to say, the mass anger. Actually, it started from the Ukraine and Russian war, but it was far off. But now we are seeing it is in our country itself. That few years ago, there were so much migration was there. Lakhs of people were migrated, not only migrated, but brutally killed by our own people, by our own thing. So we have to find out a solution for masses as well. It is so far we have discussed and find out the solution for the individuals. But now I'm just pointing out input that still there is a lot to do in this regard. This is very timely topic you have raised. I'm very happy. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Ajitji. Beautiful points. Very true. It is said, right? Global peace can be attained piece by individual peace. So end of the day, buck stops at us. Hopefully if we can get a collective consciousness where people are spiritually elevated, then they'll be able to influence the masses to have harmony and peace, around these things. But I think a lot of work is needed actually around that peace, and the buck starts with us, right? Like Mahatma Gandhi also said, be the change you want to see in the world. First, we need to bring in that peace in ourselves. Then we can start, disseminating it to the rest of the world. Otherwise, it's a hopeless battle. It's like hoping against hope, trying to influence so many masses, because everybody has an individual personality, thought process, and a lot of other variables come into play. Great point, though. We'll take one more participant, maybe two at best, and then we will call it off. We had a hard stop, so we don't want to delay it further.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Nitinji. One message came in chat. Anusha ji has mentioned that in all situations, except the last one, it can be endured. Realizing that we are living in Maya which displays three modes of nature from which there is no escape, helps in enduring.
True, very true. And enduring doesn't mean just tolerate and one day finally let it out. It means actually seeing it in perspective. Right? When the kid comes and does even slaps you, do you really feel bad? You know, it doesn't know that. But we have to slowly start building that. It's like it's a madhouse. Anybody can do or say anything to anybody at any time. And we should not really be surprised. Right? We don't know the play of gunas happening. We don't know who will come under tamu and stuff like that. By the way, anger has a lot of connection with diet also. So if you feel angry, you have those kind of things, stop eating chilies. It has a direct bearing with that. So the tamasic and rajasic food actually inflames our anger. So the more you move towards sattvic thoughts and diet, the more your anger will be. When you're fasting, you will see you will not get too much angry because you controlled your basically your senses at that point. So the diet also has so it's a bigger topic for sure. We will continue more discussion on it, but I just wanted to touch an aspect of it today. So let's take one or maybe two, and then we will wrap up today's session. Maybe one more.
Radhe, please.
Thank you so much, Pallavi ji. I was thinking maybe turn nahi aayegi aaj. Thank you for picking me. I have a very pressing question, but I'll ask that later. Okay, so why do we need to deal with the anger? Because what we don't repair, we repeat. Oh, Radhe everyone. What we don't repair, we repeat. So until we actually deal with the anger or any matter which is bothering us, it keeps on repeating. Like a lesson, God is poking us, learn this lesson. Like a parent. First they'll tell us politely, this is the problem, deal with it, right? Like a child, they'll tell the child, this is the problem, you have to fix it. So if we don't, then they get a little angry, they'll tell us a little loudly. If we don't look at it, then they have to sometimes resort to, beating with the sticks or something like that until we actually learn that lesson. So what I have learned is you deal with it when, make hay while the sun is still shining. Yeah, so, and definitely don't kill the postman. So it's so how I deal with anger, I take it out productively. When I get angry, I vacuum the whole house. When my energy is all drained, then I find myself all calm. I was just getting angry for no bigger deal. Sometimes it really helps. Or just go for a walk. When you see happy people, they're smiling at you, you can't stay angry. So, you have to respond with a smile. There are these two things I really find helpful for me. And definitely tell your children to stay in their other room so you don't went down from them. And about the hierarchy system, I think that, I have seen people getting angry at their own big brothers, their fathers. They are in the superior position. But it's like when we think the anger, where we take it out, where we think that, the situation where it will be bad for us later. Like, it will be harmful for us later. Like a job. A boss may fire me. I have to pay so many mortgages. So it will be, bad for me ultimately. So that's why we don't take out the anger.
Yep.
So that was the first question I dealt with. That's the only one I'm going to deal with. Now I have a question. Like someone said from Kashmir Files, I think if you want to really watch something about Kashmir exodus or genocide, as they have said, Shikara is a better movie. It released, I think, last year. It's a much better movie and away from all the political agenda that they have addressed there. And regarding that, we just watched it last night. So I and my husband, we discussed it for a good 2-3 hours, that movie. Not that movie, the agendas that they have discussed in that movie. So one thing, I only have one question from, not that movie, but it came from that movie. It's not related to the question. Is it okay if I quickly ask it?
Sure, real quick. Wrap it up in 2 minutes.
So, just I'll be quick. So in that movie, they have shown like all those people, they're going through so much pain, right? They are pandits. I'm not saying that if you are a pandit, you are God realized, right?
No.
But
no, nothing.
Surely there were so many, there would be people who would be God realized, right? So if they are God realized, then they have to, as the collateral damage, you can say, they have to go through so much pain. Like until you resolve it, right? You keep repeating. You take it with the soul. I know you believe in reincarnation, right? So if there is a pain, right? If there is the soul endures, it has some anger, it takes it to the next life, right? But if you're dying with the anger, and it's not like, it's so much pain when you die, and you have to take it because you're dying. So it's not your mistake, but you're taking it to the next life. So how is it fair? I mean, why doesn't God intervene at that place? And maybe we can discuss it if it's not relevant. And
it requires, it's definitely not a 2-minute conversation. Let's talk about that. The pain that you're talking about. And first of all, God realized is a very high state. It is only achievable, it becomes a safe.
Maybe, but
and one point of God realization is called Vide, where you lose sensation of your body. Okay, you're no longer subjected to the regular pains that people do. So God realization is not something that is not an ordinary feat for sure. They are Vide.
But I really need a very good explanation for it, a little longer.
So we'll continue this discussion. I know we had to wrap it up on time. So let's bring that question. I'm sure maybe one more session would be needed on this one. We have run out of time for today. Sorry, we'll not be able to take any more hands. Let's do our closing prayers. And tomorrow and day after, we don't have that session. We have a little bit of break because of Holi and the festival coming up. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, same time. And we'll build on this discussion. Okay, maybe if you can articulate that in attendance tracker, I can get it more and give you a very precise answer on what you're asking. Okay, so do fill that out, and let's do our closing prayers for the day before it gets too late for other participants. And by the way, for the mock run, you just need to join the same bridge after we close it. Okay, so I don't want to wait, Amutawaniji, wait for too long. So let's do our closing prayers for the day. Thank you, everybody. Again, you can unmute yourself if you want to do that together.
Yes, I have unmuted them. Okay. Sorry.
अगर 15,000 रुपये सिर्फ पेट्रोल की खर्च कर रहे हैं उससे अच्छा स्कूटी
दुख भाग भवे Thank you, everybody. I posted the link for Instagram, so do check it out, comment, share, do a lot of good things, okay, with that. And it's just to the first of the many reels for Bhagavad Gita session we have created. So we'll help spread the word around, so that will be appreciated. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend and a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Now stay safe, stay blessed.
Happy Holi for all of you,
and happy Holi in advance to all of you. Yeah.
Yes.
Radhe.
Thank you, Nitinji, for such an enlightening class. Always. Yeah. Happy Holi to all of you.
When is the next class, Nitinji? On Tuesday, you said.
Tuesday.
It is in USA.
US time.
USA Tuesday.
Monday evening. India time Tuesday morning.
Tuesday. When you said Tuesday, I got confused. Usually you say let's meet on Monday. So when you said Tuesday, oh, even Monday's class is cancelled. What are?
Confusing you was purely coincidental and not at all intentional.
That's okay.
All right, Radhe, everybody.
Yes, happy Holi, everyone. Thank you,
everyone.
And we will miss 2 days, Nitinji, of the class session, but we will enjoy the Holi.
You will miss 2 days, I'll miss 4 days. Okay, so we'll see you next week. All right. See you then.
Long weekend for us.
Yeah, have a blessed day, everyone. Have a blessed day. Thank you.
Happy Holi.
Thank you, Radhe.
I'll go ahead and close the bridge. Yeah.